Hi, this is Hans, and looking back, I realized that it's been heading towards 5 months since the last ZitaFTP server release. The last release was way back in May now. And I distinctly remember saying that after streamlining my processes that I was going to have more regular releases. That was what I was aiming to do. Clearly hasn't happened yet. So what happened? Well, in a previous video, I talked about my search for a ready-made C++ web framework on which to build the web-based user interface for the FTP server. Witty is one of the ones that I was looking at. That was a pretty good candidate, but in the end, I just couldn't use any of them, mainly because I needed this to also run on Amiga OS, and particular limitations on that operating system meant that getting these running on it would be a huge task that was beyond me. So I started writing my own, and this is where I'm going to really contrast the difference between using a ready-made framework and why you want to, and writing your own. So I started writing my own. First, HTTP server. I need an HTTP server. Once I've written that, I need to be able to handle sessions so that people can log in and out. And then there's the template code. I need to be able to use templates to generate the HTML web pages based on the user input and data and all that sort of thing. And also, the part of the HTTP server was the HTTP router, which redirects to the code that generates the different pages. And then once I reached that point, I remember saying that I felt like I was getting to that point where I've written enough low-level code that progress would start accelerating because I can start programming at a higher level. Completely forgetting about the user interface gadgets or widgets. So with something like Witty here, you have a library of widgets to handle things like trees and tables. They've got navigation items, they've got forms, layouts, graphics, even embedding media. It's already made. So if, for example, ZitaFTP server, of course, being a server, you have users that can log into the server. So you might need a table widget. With Witty, you grab the table widget and just feed the data in. For me, I have to write the code from scratch. I have to write the template that generates the HTML. I have to write the underlying code that handles the mechanics of the widget. And I have to do this every time there's a new widget. So it's not just the list, it's the form, the login form. The login form I had a pre-made template for, so that one was, but I still had to write the underlying code. I need to be able to choose directories to serve and things like that, so that needs another widget. It keeps going on, and that's why I still have heading towards 5 months later, I still have no new release. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm hoping in a few weeks' time that I will finally have a new release out. But I distinctly remember saying maybe in a few weeks' time a few weeks ago. So that's very tentative. See, whereas if I had been able to use this framework, I could have saved myself months of time really. Which is why I think you're never going to find a framework that has exactly what you need and works the way that you want. But I say if it's like 90%, 80, 90% there, use it, because writing your own one from scratch, and this is not just web frameworks, this is any frameworks. This is, a huge other example would be game engines. Right? If you're going to write your own game engine from scratch, you can do it. But you get such a head start if you just use a ready-made one, even if you have to adapt it. So yeah, don't bother writing your own framework don't write your own framework from scratch unless you absolutely need to, because your requirements are so different. Of course, if you feel like writing a framework, go ahead. But I would highly recommend using other frameworks first, so you get an idea of what's being done. what the limitations, the pros and cons are and the limitations, and then maybe you can decide that you can think of a better approach, or figure out the things that you like that you want to include. Because otherwise, I mean, I'm writing this framework now, but ZitaFTP Server is basically the first serious networking application that I've written. So it would be unrealistic for me to create the best ever C++ web framework first time round in comparison to people who have been working on web frameworks and web programming for decades. Just not realistic. Now, don't get me wrong. The framework I'm writing serves the purpose. It's not bad. It's actually pretty. I think it's pretty good. But you know, every framework out there could use some improvement, really. So yeah, here's a ready-made framework. One of the other tips I should give is do check whether that framework, first, can it do what you need? 2, is it being actively maintained? I have accidentally started using, what was it again? I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was maybe for database access. I started using something only to realize that the author had abandoned it because it basically didn't work. And in the meantime, I'd wasted a lot of time learning how to use this framework that was dead in the water. And then I wasted even more time trying to get it to work, so fixing up the things that the author hadn't done yet, only to have to throw it all away, just like the original author did. So do make sure that the framework does what it needs out of the box, or is being actively maintained, so that if there are a few things that are, few niggling issues, that there's a group maintaining the framework that will fix that. Because otherwise you will, using a framework that's bad can also sap your time. Okay, that's it for this week. As I say, in a few weeks' time, I hope I will be able to announce the next ZitaFTP Server release, which will have the beginnings of the user interface, which people will be able to try. So that's it for now. See you next time.